a freelance gig for a national outlet like several months ago, and it was for NPR, and NPR like changed their whole internal invoicing system, and I could not be arsed to figure out how to send the invoice, because it's not simple, right? It's not just like send an invoice like you normally do. It's like you have to be in their system, and then you have to do a thing, and there's like, and anyway, I really would not do it, but it was for quite a lot of money, and so I kept putting it off and putting it off, and I finally sent that. And then I also made some money from a different gig that I was gonna do that came in. And last but not least, I've spent no money on stationery this year out of my business, which, if you don't know, my business pretty much only spends money on hosting books for workshops, and because I teach all these workshops with low-income youth and youth that are homeless or transitional or aging out of the foster care system. And I use all of the Patreon money that I get from the, hey, look here, we have it, from the Personal Finance Society. So all of the money I get, it's like $300 a month. So it's not like a crazy amount of money, although I am so grateful to everybody that contributes to it. I use that to pay for hosting software, and then for all of the books that I give out through those workshops. It doesn't pay for like all of the books, but it pays for enough of the books that I just kind of write it off against all of the other books that I sell. So when this was my full-time job, I had to like cut myself paychecks every month. And so I wasn't buying like stationery very often, but I was making more money through the business. Now that the business is like, doesn't make a ton of money, but makes enough to pay expenses, usually the extra money that's kind of left over, I will use a little bit of it on stationery, because that's all essentially a tax write-off for me. I probably should use it on like cameras and like filming equipment, or someone to edit, or any number of other things. I also do most of my donations through the business, because it's like easier and more straightforward to do it as a write-off. So I do like all of the stuff that I buy for my volunteering for a different thing, I write off as marketing expenses for the business. And when I give to like other charities and stuff like that. I got extremely off track here. Sorry, I'm going to take this off the screen. I got extremely off track. All this to say, I had like a little more money to play with stationery wise than I expected to. I was like, you know what I can do? I can get this planner as research. I can just get this planner as research. I got it as research. If you use my Patreon money on planner live streaming, I would be extremely into it. Well, that's good to know. I feel like most people probably want me to use it on the youth workshops, and I think that's extremely fair. Okay. Now it's going to show up. Here we go. There we go. So the planner that I got is from Laurel Denise. Please let me know if this can play. This is why it's so unusual for me. I usually hate coil bound or spiral bound. And I only recently have come around to horizontal planning since I moved into the Hobonichi Weeks. But part of the reason I'm on board with it is because, well, it's not the Hobonichi Weeks, the Kinbor Weeks. Part of the reason I'm on board with it is it's so small. So I got this mini version, and I think it could end up being really awesome for me. Oh, okay. Well, the cat's in a paper bag, in case you were wondering what that noise is. So you essentially get these little, like, week tabs that you can always view the month. And I can see this being really, really helpful for me, because one of my biggest frustrations is the like flipping back and forth, and I'll fill in the month, but then I need to like refill it into the weeks. I think this could end up working. I did also listen to the entire bullet journal audiobook because I got it from the library. And I was like almost sold on a bullet journal. And then I realistically know I'm not going to do that. Like, I am not going to set up a whole notebook manually by hand. Geograph Concept says, I have basically written these off forever for me because they are huge. Well, this is the mini one. And I was very worried about it because the boxes are much smaller in the mini. So you can really tell that these are planner people because on their page, they have printouts that you can print out for all the different size of the planners so that you can see if you can write in the boxes. So the monthly calendar boxes are like really small on the mini. And so that you can like see on different size pens if your handwriting will fit into it. And I love the box sizes on the standard, but I agree, I do not want to take a giant one with me. But I'm starting to think that maybe what I'm gonna end up doing is I am going to still have this as my in bag. Like if I'm going anywhere that isn't just to and from work, I might have this as my like take around planner, and then I'll transfer it into this slightly larger planner. I don't know, for the rest of the year. And because as you asked, it's an important live stream expense. K-Walk Comedy says, you talked about the invoice at least 3 weeks ago. Well, just to update you about the invoice, I hemmed and hawed over it for 6 weeks or longer. And then it took me about 20 minutes to deal with when I decided to deal with it. So, to be honest, much of what's keeping me sane right now is planner hype. You know, it's like, it is consumerism, but it's like consumerism where you convince yourself that you're going to be, it's like hypothetical consumerism because most of the time I'm not actually buying the planners. I'm just like looking at how other people use new planner layouts and convincing myself like that all the problems in the world will be better if I have this planner. I mean, one of the other ways that I am coping right now is developing this whole alternate fantasy life. I'm gonna go to law school. It's so dumb. I really should not go to law school. But I recently discovered that I qualify for in-state tuition at Ohio public law schools because I got my GED in Ohio. So I'm like an Ohio resident forever. And law school is like a third the price in-state in Ohio as it is in Oregon. And with the previous LSAT score that I got, which just to be clear was like 12 years ago. So who knows if I studied, I could get that again. And then I would have to retake it because they only last like 3 years. But with my previous LSAT score, which was pretty high, I would likely qualify for free tuition. So in my head, I am now coping with this idea that I'm going to go to law school. I love, this makes no sense for my life, for any choices that I am making right now. But it's always good to maintain an active alternate fantasy life in order to cope with the harshness of current reality. Geograph Concept says, I want to go to law school. You already have a master's, Geograph Concept. No more. I don't have any master's. So I feel like I should get, I need to get an advanced degree, my first advanced degree before you get your second. Law school is a good education, but it's also 3 years of opportunity cost. I'd still have to pay living expenses, which I could do, but I wouldn't be earning money. And also it's very hard. And also I don't want to be a lawyer. So I will also say a lot of the things that make it a quote unquote good education are based on me now getting exclusively served law school videos on my algorithms now, because I looked up like 2 videos about going to law school in your 40s. And now I'm getting served like nonstop videos. And then TikTok is also delivering me like it's almost law school orientation for a bunch of people, for a bunch of 1Ls. And so now I'm getting like I'm prepping for 1L law school, or like advice for your 1L law school orientation. Anyway, in my I don't want to be a lawyer. I like my current job. I just am constantly left wondering when that job will disappear, and that, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting shut down last week. I don't know if announced they were going to shut down last week. I don't know if you heard that. I mean, it doesn't directly impact my job yet, but it's not great. So, oh, is the vertical stream up? Is Aaron do that in the, Aaron said that he might do that. So, thanks. Am I in the right part of the screen for the vertical stream? The only downside is that the chats are separated. So, like, I feel like you don't get to feel like you're included in the part of it. I talked to a bunch of law librarians, and they have such a high rate of happiness and joy. Yet, really? Is Kugel behind me? No, that's Machka. That's Machka. Kugel is a little loaf over there. Not visible. Consumerism is the new hope punk. Laurel Denise offers Giovanni has a important planner-related question instead of law school-related question. We're getting nice and sidetracked here. It has a horizontal versus a vertical layout. So the vertical layout I think I'm actually more into, but I'm not into it in the mini. I think the mini is going to be too small for it. So the vertical is like this. It's got lines to write in, which I do think is like a big advantage. There's a lot of very cool ways that you can like set these up. I love that it has this little like there's just a lot of very cool things about this. Will I hate it because either it's too big or because it's spiral? Possibly. We're going to find out. This is the one that keeps selling out that is, I think, the most interesting and the least like crazy. It's essentially so it's heavy though. It's still very heavy. So it's a 9x11, so it's essentially the size of like an A4 paper, I think. And it is but it's got bigger boxes to write in, and it essentially has a vertical layout. But with even bigger boxes. And for both the monthly and not the monthly, I think that this could be very cool. But it keeps selling out. I have gone fully down the Laurel Denise rabbit hole. They have an excellent YouTube channel. You can tell they're like very serious planner people because everything is just like a bunch of planner people. And they have it's called OMG Planners, and they have really good content, and they show you a lot of like how to use these. And they, I think, do an excellent job of like showing what it looks like. Like showing what it looks like in real life and showing examples of it. And they do like fictional spreads and stuff like that all the time. Anyway, maybe I need to just start becoming a planner YouTuber. I do feel like planning YouTube, I have discussed this. I mean, obviously it doesn't really matter because I am clearly not going for views. I'm just here to vibe and hang out with all of you on YouTube. But I do feel like if I started making edited content, the planner content, it tops out. Like there's a limited number of people that want to watch you do your planners, and they have a very high appetite, but there's only so many people in the planner world. But I could keep buying planners with my business money and then making planner content, and just perpetuate it itself that way. Isn't that what addicts say? Everything will be better if I just get my planner fixed. It is absolutely like a full-on addiction for a lot of people. I do think that there is a little bit of this, like, there are a lot of people with, I know it seems like all the planner people must be like just like heavily type A, hyper organized, but there's also a lot of people that have ADHD in the planner community that are using it as like a coping tool. But there's also a lot of people that just keep buying planners because they're so overwhelmed and stressed out by life. They're like, this one is going to do it. And there's a lot of people that just use it as a healthy hobby, right? Because for a lot of planner people, it's essentially an artistic hobby more than it is an organizational method. So yeah. AS says the uneven paper would drive me nuts. I'm actually eager to see what that's like, but I think anytime you're writing, we'll find out. It's 80-pound paper though, so it's like way thicker than something like this. Pretty much all the pen tests I've seen, the only thing that is going to bleed through is like a full-on Sharpie. So David says, I'm not here for the planners. I'm here for the camaraderie. Yes, but didn't you just say that you have an entire closet full of research? Well, that's the same thing. I will say that every time I think about, this is like, okay, a while ago, my yoga studio had like a happy hour or whatever. And I went to the happy hour, which I don't normally do because I'm there to go to work out and then leave. I'm not like really into the community thing. But a friend asked me to come with her to the happy hour. And at it, they were asking like, oh, would you ever do yoga teacher training? And I was like, I don't think we need another like white, queer, skinny yoga instructor in Portland. And I don't think I'm adding anything of value by occupying this space, right, for the yoga teacher training. So the only reason I would do it would be as like a personal challenge of like, you have to do the 200 hours or whatever. But if I was going to do it as like, cause I always am thinking about, oh, what are the side job backup plans that I can have when journalism and especially public media journalism falls apart? I always am thinking about that. And obviously yoga teacher would be, it's very easy to slot in around other stuff. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I could see that because I could absolutely see myself as a group fitness instructor. But when I think about it, my best value would probably be teaching ice skating, right? Like there are a lot fewer people that can teach ice skating than can teach yoga in the world, right? There is, I have a more unique skill set that I have spent decades more honing than yoga. And so like if we were thinking about anything that I was going to spend my time on and do as a secondary hobby, I would go back through the PSA, like Professional Skaters Academy, like, training and like try to up my levels in figure skating coaching, right? And I don't need to do that because that does not fit my schedule and it doesn't make any sense for me right now. And there's also a lot of drama going on right now in the Portland ice rinks. Like a bunch of the elite skaters are actually skating up near Seattle or out on the East Coast because of ice time, because of infighting among the rinks. And this is all coming back. It's all going to relate back. I promise. To me, this is the same thing as me doing planner content. I am adding nothing really to the planner world on the internet. I feel like I offer some unique value towards like economic and financial content, and there's fewer people that can do that. I have some level of training and skill and understanding that allows me to provide economic content and personal finance content and I have worked for my licenses and my degree and stuff in order to bring that. I add no particular value as a planner. I'm not particularly artistic. I'm not even that like great at planner stuff. Do we really need another quirky white girl making planner content on YouTube? Probably not. Kenneth says there's a huge oversupply of yoga instructors. Yoga instructor training was big money for wellness influencers, gurus. Absolutely, right? So it's yet another one of those things that kind of looks like a pyramid scheme. No, I agree. And I feel like if there's anywhere where there's an oversupply, it would be Portland, Oregon. We need more short yoga teachers. Interesting. Like almost all of my yoga teachers are short. One of them teaches fat yoga, which I think is like really helpful. But if you think about it, yoga, the type of yoga, at least that I do, was originally designed for prepubescent boys. And so a lot of the positions are, especially in Ashtanga or Vinyasa, are not actually made for adult human bodies. They are made for a very specific group of prepubescent teenage boys being able to meditate longer. And there is a lot of adaptation that has to happen. If you have a lot of free time, you could help me come here and finish my apartment. The construction was the easy part. I don't, do you think I can't even finish my house? Some days the stars will align and the right planner will come along. I now view it as like the right planner comes at the right time. You're not like marrying the planner. You're dating the planner you only need to date it for like a year or in some cases 6 months. I did see, I lost it, but Geograph Concept asked if it was a 2026 planner. No, the planner I have, I got on sale a 2025 planner and I want to try out the layout while not having to commit to it. And their 2026 pre-orders don't start till October, which is like great because I will get a chance to try out the layout, but I will still have this to fall back on. And before I decide to spend a bunch of money, hopefully I will know. Hello, there's a bunch of new viewers. I am assuming you all came from the Vertical chat. Most planner influencers are too vapid. Bring on the quirky. I don't feel like most of them are too vapid. Maybe I've just been lucky in the planner influencers that I have. David says you can't have too many quirky people. I am absolutely afraid of commitment to one planner. I'm actually in a polycule of planners. It's ethical non-monogamy with my planners. B says yoga is one of those things I keep thinking I should get into. I'm stiff as fuck. I will say the main reason I started doing it is because I wanted to be doing committed flexibility and body weight strength training, but I needed like a schedule that was like there were a lot of classes, and all of the ones that I found that were like flexibility for weightlifting or blah, 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 they would be like one specific time a week and at one specific gym. And there's so many more yoga studios than there are like dance flexibility or anything like that. And I know how to stretch. Like I absolutely know how to stretch. I cannot make myself stretch for an hour every day unless you lock me in a room with someone telling me what to do and without my phone. And the like mindfulness part of yoga is also very helpful because I am someone who struggles with mindfulness. And once again, being locked in a room without my phone for an hour and a half every day, very helpful, like while awake, very helpful. And I do think it has net positive benefits that I get that are different than the benefits I get from other exercise. As someone who exercises a lot, like figure skating is, I think it is good for mindfulness because especially the type of skating I do requires like a lot of concentration. The downside with skating is that I really struggle with like comparison traps, especially like right now there's an Olympic gold medalist who's training skaters at my rink right now. So like I'm feeling very aware of promise lost and stuff like that, and being like, why am I comparing myself to an Olympic gold medalist? Obviously, that's unrealistic. And with yoga, there is so much focus on like, just focus on yourself. You're not competing with other people. I'm not even paying attention to other people. And it is very good for me for that, in a way where I feel like running is also that way for me. Running is like, I'm never worrying about like breaking records or doing better. I'm just trying to beat myself. And in skating, that's what we always say we want to do, but it can be really hard because you're training on a shared ice rink. And I have to work to remind myself that I'm only like competing with myself. I'm only that I've got my own goals. I'm not trying to compete with a 10-year-old who's, going to nationals next month. But yeah. We need more arthritic short yoga teachers. I should become a yoga teacher. This is not true. I don't know. I find it very, very helpful to have people teaching yoga that have experience with bodies that are not very cooperative. Theoretically, a good yoga studio and a good yoga instructor will know how to work around that, but they're not all that way. I don't know. I always have a little bit of a like complex relationship with yoga because I am not Hindu, and I am often learning, like, the yoga studio I ended up choosing, I chose based on like its schedule and its proximity to my house and its price. And I do have a question of like, should I be giving money to the more authentic yoga studio that is like run by, like monks, that is in Portland, or, I don't know. I do a lot of like conversations with myself, but for me, it is about the stretching and the body weight workout with the mindfulness. And like, I would just go to like a bar studio if I needed to. But once again, they are more affordable and there are more of them for yoga. And I think as long as I honor the cultures and practices and I'm not trying to package it and resell it. But I do constantly wonder, like, am I contributing to, once again, the people that are profiting off of this are like queer white ladies or white passing ladies in Portland who own this yoga studio, as opposed to the cultures and practices that have based it. But it's also like yoga is so old and so many cultures have absorbed it. There's so many different styles of yoga that are all kind of wrapped up into one. And I kind of view the Americanization, like the fitness industry version of it, as just being another one of those styles. Like, it's not even one religion's type of practice. And I don't know. I go back and forth. On this, and this is one of the reasons why I'm never going to like advocate, but I do think it is better focused on being able to like, there were a lot of things that I did tons of PT and OT to do. Like, I went to my occupational therapist in 2022 and I told her like, I want to be able to do push-ups flat on the floor. I want to be able to do 5 push-ups flat on the floor because of my wrists, I've always had to use push-up handles or do them on my knuckles, which can be really hard on obviously my knuckles, because I can't bend my wrists this way. And I've broken both of my wrists as well as having rheumatoid arthritis. And the occupational therapist just went, it's good to have goals. She's like, I'm never going to tell anybody that they can't do something. And she gave me exercises for it. But like, she kind of set in my mind that it was like not going to be possible to get to the point where I was able to do like handstands and push-ups flat on the floor again with the level of like metal and arthritis in my wrists. And the advantage of yoga, because 1, you can always modify, and 2, because I was doing it as a progressive practice and I was doing more than I was doing even when I do my OT and PT at home. And I can now do like 15 push-ups flat on the floor, and I do every day. And that was because of very intentional working through yoga, but in many ways less like challenging, and I more progressively loaded it doing yoga than other things. And that isn't to say that like yoga is a magic it didn't fix my disability. And I think that any person that has a chronic illness or a disability has heard, have you tried yoga? And I'm not gonna like say it as a tool for that. I will also say if you are in a sport like mine where you need to have very specific types of flexibility and you need to have like way more of it than um normal people should. I'm just going to say normal people. Like in figure skating, there are positions that we are expected to do with our body that like there is no reason you need to do that in regular life, right? That's also true in dance. It's true in like pole, all sorts of other kind of sports, martial arts. And um yoga is not as good at building that specific flexibility if you're doing it in the standard kind of flow set way that it is sold at fitness studios in the US. I get around that by going in 15 minutes before all my classes start, which is when the studio opens, and I do all my PT, all my OT, my targeted like figure skating kind of movements that I need to do, and then I stretch my splits, which is not a thing I get an opportunity to do in class very often because like most people don't need their splits. But I do it officially more than and more consistently than I ever did before. Do you love that we were talking about economic data and now we're talking about this? I come for the donuts, stay for the planners, and occasional economic learning. As long as you include enough washi tape or journals, I'm cool with planners. I like this thing. Okay, yoga is like Xerox or ketchup. It's now generic. I know, which is like kind of a shame. It's kind of a shame. But it is really interesting because there's a lot of overlap between like kind of woo sort of stuff, especially in Portland, like West Coast sort of studios, wherein like, do I need to get astrology with my yoga? No. But I also think that it is very like something I've worked to be much better at is open-mindedness and not being skeptical towards people's like beliefs or things that bring them solace. Like when I was younger and growing up, I really treated like religious practices as like, oh, that's extreme. And that a lot of that had to do with like not being Christian and having Christian kids like treat me and treat me like crap and try to push the religion on me. And I then met people that I saw were working towards the good in the world and Tikamola and trying to do it through the power of their religion. Like they viewed their religion as something that brought them a great deal of solace and made them work for good in the world. And I've come to respect that. And one of the things that I think is like, as I've grown more mature and I've aged, I've worked very hard on being like, just because it isn't an official religion doesn't mean that this belief system doesn't have value. And official religion, right? And if someone believes something that isn't harming someone else and is bringing them comfort in ritual, in rules, in the way that they look at the world, in trying to make them better at themselves, like I'm willing to hear it out. And I used to really like living on the West, being a West Coast queer, I got to tell you, I had like an apartment in Eugene where they like needed my time of birth in order to figure out if we would be good roommates because they needed to run our charts. And that was the kind of thing that would make me immediately be like, yeah, we're not a good fit. And now I sort of respect the idea that it is a tool for learning about yourself, just like anything else. It's like reading Nietzsche or Rumi. And I think most people view it as all in good fun and a learning tool just the same. And so anyway, I think about it in the same perspective. Soul Ace is so Pacific Northwest Actus. It's always solace here. Solace is a vegetable. Solace is a vegetable. What is Soul Ace? Oh. I've heard really good things about Pilates, but I'm more afraid of Pilates. Yoga, I do a lot by myself at home. Pilates is, I've done a lot of Pilates as well. Pilates is like very expensive if you do it in a studio. It's easy to do Pilates by yourself at home if you're doing mat Pilates. I will also say Joseph Pilates developed it while in a concentration camp. And so all of the stuff can be done with no equipment. And all of the stuff that he ended up developing, like the reformers and those really expensive pieces of equipment, they're not necessary in order to do it. I love Pilates, but once again, it came down to like it's more expensive and there's fewer studios. Yoga, man, it's cheap. It's cheap comparatively. I mean, I still spend a lot of money on it, but I spend a lot of money on fitness relative to almost everything else. Y'all, Pilates was a person's name. Didn't know that. Learn something new every day. Yeah, Joseph Pilates. He was an Italian immigrant and a strong man. And when World War II broke out, he was put into a internment camp in, I believe, the Isle of Man, because he was in the UK. He developed this whole system, and kind of part of the origin story of the Pilates exercise method is that the people that were in the camp with him had a much higher rate of survival than because they were doing the Pilates exercises, which he developed the original reformer with springs in the bed in the infirmary at the internment camp that he was in. He eventually moved to New York City, and Pilates became a method for the great rich people of New York City. So he's German. I thought he was Italian. Yeah. So he eventually moved to New York City and started selling this, and it became sworn by a lot of like actresses and dancers, and it was done as cross training. But I really thought he was Italian though, not German. I guess he was German. Also, maybe I would just thought because Pilates sounds more like a German name, or it sounds more like an Italian name than a German name. But that's why he was in an internment camp. And it was during World War I, not during World War II. America, what a country. Yep. Kenneth says Pilates has changed a lot. Yes, but you can still do all of the core things. But also yoga has too. Do what I've done. Ask them what happens if you don't accept their savior. When they tell you where you're going, ask loudly around the room who wants to come with. I don't like to be antagonistic about that. You know, Jesus makes a lot of people happy. So, good for them. OT, try to be nice at least. I know. All right, y'all, I am officially 15 minutes late to my next meeting. I'm so bad. Y'all need to tell me what you're looking forward to this week, and I need to go. We have really run the gamut. Maybe by this time next week, I'm going to have my new planner, and it will have solved all of my problems, and it will solve the economy. What do we think? We think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to get a new planner, and all of my problems will be immediately solved. I think that's absolutely what's going to happen. Geograph Concept is looking forward to working the weekend again. I want to know, did you have fun working the weekend last week? Because it was what you were looking forward to, and I guess you're looking forward to it again next weekend. So you must still be. David says, I only do that when they get annoying about it. Now that I've lived on the West Coast for like 20 years, I don't really get nearly as many people trying to convert me. When I lived in the Midwest, it happened a lot. Fuzzbubble says, yes, that's true. That's how planners work. Absolutely. Looking forward to kids coming back to school. Last year, let's go. That's great. Fantastic. How's your family doing? Are you going to be starting, or are you still going to be out on FMLA? But I'm excited for you. I'm glad you're excited about the kids coming back to school. I feel like that's not always people's attitude in their last year of working in education. So Giovanni says my bet's on the planner. I like that's all we've got now. It's like some people need astrology and the rest of us just need planner peace. There's the concept of nirvana. There's the concept of Mecca, and then there's the concept of planner peace. Yeah, I think like several religions are damning me to blasphemy after this live stream today. I've managed to offend probably quite a few people if people are watching. I go to Philadelphia for the first time since third grade, hoping to go to Independence Hall, the National Jewish Museum, a keyboard con, and hop on hop bus. That would be also my itinerary. Also, if you have a chance, like if you're over there because you might go past the Liberty Bell, you just have to walk past the Liberty Bell. Like it's very tiny and it's not that exciting. But the is it Susan B. Anthony? Wait. Who sewed the flag? Now I can't remember. Betsy Ross. So Betsy Ross, a little controversial of a character, but I did find the little living history museum of Betsy Ross's like her workshop and her business to be kind of cute. And it's quite close to the Liberty Bell and like kind of that whole central area. You can walk around a lot of Philly, I feel like. Probably because it's such an old town. That's my other recommendation. But that's exciting for you. But keyboards are obviously the most important part. Back from FMLA, mom is on the mend. Thanks for remembering. I'm so glad your mom is on the mend. It sounds like it was very stressful. I'm glad you had access to FMLA. The witnesses showed up at my door recently. So the witnesses are like real heavy near the hospital university that I bike past on my way home from work. And I love looking at the fashion outfits of the women. So the outfits of the women, because they have like pretty strict dress code in Jehovah's. And if you are doing your service time of like spreading the word, they tell you to wear bright colors, but you have to wear like long coats and everything. So anyway, I like looking at the fashion moments. Also, our Jehovah's Witnesses in Portland are like overwhelmingly Black, which is notable in a city that is not have a very high Black population. But generally, Jehovah's Witnesses are like, it's like there are, I think it's like 50% Black as a religion, although I think we never have official stats on them. Betsy Ross House was another school trip, field trip fave. See, there you go. My comic book store is having a huge tent sale this Saturday. That sounds amazing and very dangerous for your budget. The last time Jehovah's Witnesses showed up at my door was actually the FBI. Aaron, I feel like we should end the stream now with that. I know where that anecdote is going, but I'm not going to let you explain anymore. I'm very interested about that. Sophie's going to tourist around Portland. That sounds very fun. Yes, that's smart. You should only tell that in person. Okay, y'all have a lovely week. I am officially very late for my next meeting. Stay safe, stay hydrated. Pet a cat if you have one available. Have a great kids coming back to school, going to Philadelphia, working weekends. And maybe go get a planner because it obviously will save the world. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you all next Tuesday. Bye!